94.5 Cool FM.
What's happening, YouTube? So, I'm driving from West Phoenix, Central West Phoenix to Tempe. Thought I'd shoot a little video. And what am I going to talk about? I don't know. Haven't given that any thought. Do I ever give that any thought? No, not much. Sometimes. But, I don't know. I've been regularly complaining about how it's just always been a challenge for quite some time to maintain adequate space on my iPhone to do this whole vlogging thing. I just barely have enough space to shoot video, and then when I get the video, I need space to cache it, to upload it, and then that compounds itself whenever it sits there in my sits there long enough to get moved. Like iOS will automatically relocate it to the iCloud and just leave basically a thumbnail. So then I end up having to try to download it from there to do the whole cache on YouTube thing, and it just ends up being a big dysfunctional mess where I'm regularly running out of space on my iPhone and trying to figure out, well, which apps can I temporarily delete or offload to make more space, to get rid of some videos to make more space, and so I'm back into that whole scenario again today, as I'm just trying to upload my last one, which is uploaded right now. It's from yesterday when I was on my way to Bullock's. And oh, by the way, for those, in case I don't get this uploaded anytime soon, it's Friday night, about 11:30 p.m. I never know the damn date, but it's the last Friday of, oh look, fireworks off to the left. That's neat. It's the last Friday of July 2021. Oh, I'm just so not into this song. Now, that's an oldie I actually like a lot. Always happy to hear Dion and the Belmonts. Anyway, where was it? Ooh, lightning, nifty. If y'all seeing it in the video, there's fireworks being shot over downtown Phoenix. By the way, I'm on Grand Avenue, headed towards downtown, approaching 19th Avenue. I'm getting ready to go south on 19th Avenue to get onto I-10, but, it is visible in the video, just not very prominently. Anyway, judging for the location of the fireworks, I would guess that's, probably the ending of a Diamondbacks game. I mean, I haven't read about that. I'm just kind of guessing. Educated guess of what brought all those awesome fireworks. Anyway, oh God, that derailed my train of thoughts. So yeah, the space issue. So I'm looking a little more closely at like what's taking up space on my iPhone, and I realized I had a like I forget this file size. Anyway, I had a pretty substantially large PDF file that was something I downloaded as a manual that I for a mixer that a friend gave me as a gift that needs some work. Really nice Mackie mixer, and I haven't got into it enough to find out what kind of work how much work it needs. I haven't powered it up even, but anyway, I downloaded the manual to learn a little bit more about it, and it'd been taking up space, so I moved that up to my Google Drive, which has a little bit of space on it, and I was like, well, still didn't really free up enough to move the needle much. And I'm looking a little more, and I realize what's really taking up an insane amount of space is my YouTube app cache. I mean, insane amount of space. Like, I think it was like,
Honey, the credit card bill came.
God, I got a terrible memory for numbers, but I think it was like 15 gigs, which,
My brother did. He went to 45cash.com and got $3,000.
like, I think I only have 32 gigs on my phone anyway. So 15 gigs is like half of that. Maybe it was 12 gigs. I don't know. Whatever it was substantial. Like, I'm trying to delete pictures and shit, you know, which don't move the needle much at all. And then I'm looking at my YouTube cache. I'm like, it's like half the space on my phone. Why is one app caching that much shit? And I looked around to see, you know, what can I do to clean that up, and like, when you go into iPhone settings for YouTube, there's no options for managing your cache, none whatsoever. And there's all kinds of options for, you know, what data is shared and what data is stored and how you receive your notifications and all kinds of shit like that, but just nothing for management of cache. And I had the option of offloading the app to free up a little space, which I contemplated, but I decided against it. In fact, that's what drew my attention to it. I usually never consider offloading that because I use YouTube constantly, not only for, you know, my vlogging on my channel, but just, you know, for watching and commenting and you know, the YouTube comment section is definitely one of my most active, you know, social medias, which is sort of my replacement for having no real social life. So yeah. I just never consider offloading that one. And at that point, I was like, well, I can offload that for a little bit, you know, and pull it back, how much space is taken up. And then I looked at, like, you know, how much space could be saved from offloading the app, and it was pretty nominal compared to, holy shit, that's half the available memory on my phone is taken up by its cache. And I did some Googling, and apparently this is not an uncommon problem for people using iPhones and iPads. And the only solution is to basically uninstall your app, your YouTube app, and then reinstall it, and kind of start from scratch. And I'm not a big fan of doing that, because then it's like, well, I got to redo all my settings. And for me, the biggest fear of any, you know, uninstalling and reinstalling anything Google related is, I at this point I've had to change my Google password so many times, I don't know what it is off the top of my head. And I don't think it's anything I've really vlogged about, but people who are close to me know I went through this crazy existential crisis about, I want to say maybe 3 years ago, 2.5 years ago. It's been quite a while now. Wherein I got completely locked out of my Google account. And at that time, I didn't have much on this YouTube channel, but I had another YouTube channel called Dan the Taxi Man that was hovering at just under 10,000 subscribers. And the content of that was largely karaoke tracks, singable karaoke tracks. A handful of which I'd authored myself, the bulk of which were just basically re-authored stuff from other sources. In other words, like, I'd taken one and there was a flaw with its audio, so I corrected the flaw with the audio and re-uploaded it. And then some stuff that I'd ripped off of legacy physical media, such as some stuff from Laserdiscs and from VCDs. Mostly the VCDs, mostly imports from Asia. Although I had some U.S. releases that were Pioneer DVD karaoke, which was mostly stuff that was previously released on Pioneer Laserdisc karaoke. So yeah, I put quite a bit of that stuff up, and sometimes there'd be copyright claims on it. You know, whatever. I never monetized that channel, so, you know, somebody has a claim on it. If you got a copyright, by all means, monetize it. Get your money. I'm just trying to share it for the benefit of the karaoke scene on YouTube. And anyway, so I had that. And the other thing I was doing was a lot of music videos, either stuff that I'd ripped myself. Oh, here comes the rating again. Either stuff that I'd ripped myself, or stuff that, again, I'd reauthored in some capacity, where I downloaded off of YouTube, and it was in the wrong aspect ratio, or one thing that I did, I still frequently find on YouTube, is, and even the record labels and even Vivo upload stuff like this more often than they should. The video was sourced off of, say, a VHS tape or a DVD that was in a 4:3 aspect ratio, but the video itself was a widescreen video. So for whatever legacy, media was on, be that a DVD or a VHS tape or even some sort of videotape like a U-matic tape or a Sony Betacam tape, it was letterboxed at the time when all screens were pretty much all screens were 4:3 aspect ratio. Letterboxing was added to the widescreen video, and for whatever reason, when it was uploaded, the uploader, the record label, or whatever, being lazy, it was just uploaded like that to YouTube, which has been a 16:9 aspect ratio medium for. Actually, it's not even all 16:9 aspect ratio. It's more flexible than that these days. But at any rate, it certainly hasn't been contained. Hasn't been limited to 4:3 for a long time, and they just upload it like that. So if you're an average person watching it on a 16:9 screen, or in the case of like newer smartphones, an even wider screen, if you're turning it sideways to full screen it, you're getting what looks like a postage stamp on your screen, where it's pillar boxing the 4:3 video file, and then you've got these this letterboxing that was uploaded with it. And my show, as far as like my karaoke show that I do live in bars, it's been a 16:9 thing, exclusively a 16:9 thing for a long time. It's been a long time since I've done a show at a bar that had 4:3 tube TVs, and I accommodated that. In fact, I believe the last show that I had where I did that would have been Jugheads. And we're talking like 12 years ago. I did have some 4:3 TVs in the mix at East Side, when Break Room was temporarily East Side. But I also had 16:9 TVs, and I was just letting my hardware crop and distort the few 4:3 TVs, for the sake of having my high definition TVs look good. But anyways, I was taking a lot of videos. I was properly cropping the letterboxing off to get the aspect ratio to either 16:9, or if it was a different aspect ratio, I try to take it to that exact aspect ratio. I have found a lot of times, in the widescreen video on a 4:3 letterbox medium, I found that 16:10 was used a lot. So I had uploaded a lot of music videos in the 16:10 aspect ratio, which if you're playing on a 16:9 TV, you end up getting some pillar boxing, but it's real minor pillar boxing, and for the most part your video is filling the screen without giving you much, pillar boxing, without anything being cut off or anything, a lot of wasted space. Anyway, there was a lot of that on there. And wow, I wasted a lot of time talking about a YouTube channel that no longer exists, that probably nobody still cares about but me. But anyways, back to my issue of not knowing my Google account password. Like that YouTube channel was a very big part of my life at that time. And then of course, my Gmail, which has been my main it's been my primary email for, I want to say, a decade, pretty damn close to a decade, maybe longer. And also my Google Drive, I have a lot of stuff on there, particularly a lot of my karaoke software backup, my karaoke database backup stuff, and the images that I use for my printed materials. It's stuff that's very important to me, and stuff I need access to. I forgot my password. I forget exactly how I did it. I think it just had to do with I had typed it in wrong or whatever, and I had to change it. And one thing that really frustrates me, and it's not just Google, it's common across a lot of platforms, is if for whatever reason you change a password, you can never change it back to one you used before. And for me, the way because I have so many struggles with memory, which I do believe is related to my bipolar, my schizoaffective disorder, and possibly my other, whatever other undiagnosed mental issues I have. There are things I really do genuinely struggle remembering. passwords is definitely one of them. So I do like to fall back on old passwords or variations of old passwords. And if they've never been compromised, or if I feel confident they've never been compromised, it bothers me that I can't go back to using them. But Google absolutely does not allow that. And so I've long since exhausted passwords that I have any real hope of remembering. So anytime I can't remember my Google password, which is pretty much now, it becomes a big ordeal. And anyway, when this thing happened about 2.5 years ago, I was locked out of my Google account. And I mean, I did everything imaginable to try to get on there, and just nothing worked. Absolutely nothing worked. And it drove me so absolutely insane. I almost was back in the mental hospital over it. I was having pretty substantial mental health breakdowns over it, just over the loss of access to my YouTube channels and my Gmail. And I did manage to actually retain access to my Gmail, but only on the iPhone I was using at that time. I think it was an iPhone. Whatever, like, my primary mobile device was at that time, I still had access to my Google Drive and my and my Gmail through the apps on that, but I couldn't get into it on any of on my browsers, and I couldn't get into it on any other device. And any attempt to try and recover my password was just a massive fail. And that's when I'm like, well, God, Google should have some kind of customer service that can help me out with that. Yeah, for those who know anything about Google, they don't. There's no phone number to call Google. If you need help with Google, there's not. It don't work that way. There are some phone numbers to Google. Most of them just get you to menus. They're endless menus. Now, for people who advertise on Google, there is customer, because you're big money to them. There is customer service there, but they will not help with anything else. And at that point, I was like, my God, I just need to go where I can talk to a person. And that's long been a thing for me. Like, when I'm struggling with doing stuff online, or I'm struggling with doing stuff on the phone, I've never been comfortable doing stuff on the phone. I used to have severe anxieties around making phone calls. I mean, I would literally go into cold sweats and panic attacks when I was a teenager if I had to make a phone call. To anybody that wasn't a close personal friend. Just that there was just that much anxiety around talking to somebody when I couldn't look at them, or a phone being answered by somebody I didn't know who it was. They didn't know who I was. That's created great anxiety for me, and it's still something I struggle with. Not to as much of an extreme, but it is something I struggle with, and. So it's always been my thing. It's like, well, you can handle it on the phone. Yeah, no, other people can handle it on the phone. I assure you, I can't handle it on the phone. I've tried, I've failed, and I don't need it triggering me into a full-on schizoaffective disorder panic attack where I start having, where the voices and the hallucinations start coming on due to stress, because that's actually a symptom I get when I'm under great stress. I just need to go in and actually talk to a person. So I thought I'd be able to do this with Google. Yeah, I was wrong. I ended up I thought about going to Google in Los Angeles. That's the closest office to Phoenix, but I've been really jonesing to take a trip to Denver, so I decided instead I'd go to Google in Boulder, and I did get there. And I've occasionally, on where I've been talking about scooters, I've mentioned on these vlogs about how I did juicing for a couple of days in Colorado in the Denver area, and that was a trip that resulted in me doing that. So on that end, the trip was a unexpected success, because I had 2 days of juicing that I didn't think I would have, in which I had an absolute blast and made quite a bit of money, and more than covered my expenses for the trip. So to that end, the trip was a success. But what the hell? I absolutely hate how every Dutch Bros just sucks up all this parking lot space for the drive-through. hate it. Oh, I was not talking about dust pros. I was just mildly annoyed and inconvenienced trying to come into a parking lot by their detours that aren't even in use right now because they're closed. Yeah, here's a slightly annoying parking spot. Wow, Zia is not open. I mean, I guess it's 11:48. When I worked there, they close at midnight, but not open at all. Anyway, I'm at my destination, so I should wrap this up. But long story short, yeah, I made no contact with anybody at Google. There's not even a well, actually, the office that they had their posted address for, it was obviously still a Google facility, but there was nobody there. Like nobody there at all. I don't know, maybe there was a security person there who told me to get out of there, but it's been a while, so my memories are a little unclear now. But there was definitely not a, no reception. There seemed to be no staff there. But there was a sign on the door that, said something about their other location, which was not mentioned on the Google website as to one of their headquarters. And it wasn't far away, so I went to that location, and there was staff there, and there were several people that were, staff members that were out in the courtyard and stuff, and I could see that it was like a reception area, but it was locked, even though it was open for business. And, you hit a button to get buzzed in, and I explained my situation, and they weren't buzzing me in for that. And I was pretty persistent. Like, I'm not going away. Somebody needs to help me. And eventually a security person went out, and I could tell his main goal was just to get me out of there. But to his credit, he did actually, he's like, oh, no, you just, you recover your password. I'll show you how to do it. I'll walk through it. And he did, and he tried to walk me through it. And, like I said, I wouldn't have driven to Boulder if it was that easy to recover my account. It wasn't. And, yeah, so trying to wrap this up, make a long story short, I wasn't even going to go into this, but anyway, I ended up not getting it back into my account whatsoever, and I called a good friend of mine who lives out, he actually works for a Silicon Valley corporation, and I forget which one, but he's in San Jose now, and is having a much better life than I am. He's young and he's smart, and he's not doing all the fuck ups that I've done in my life. So, but he's still a friend. He still answers the phone. Was eager to talk to me, but I told him how distressed I was, and he was somebody that actually was like, oh, you just do password recovery. Like he understood that sometimes that doesn't work, and he's like man. I'll see if I can get a hold with. He goes, I know some people that actually work in Google, and maybe I can pull some strings or get somebody that knows something that can help you. He goes, but yeah, it sounds like you're at a point where, and then what he explained to me, and I couldn't find anything online documenting that, but what he explained to me is and I do believe this is what happened. He said that it's not a documented thing. At least it wasn't documented then. It was not showing up on anything I was looking at, but that Google goes into like a lockdown mode if you've had too many attempts at trying to recover your password, too many failed attempts. And wow, talk about something that is just not helpful for the mentally ill, for the people who have mental health issues. They lock it down, but they don't give you any kind of notice that they've locked you down like that. And how long they thoroughly lock everything down depends on how hard you're trying to continue to access your account. And believe me, I was pulling no stops. I mean, I drove all the way to 2 different locations in Boulder, for God's sake, from Phoenix. Like, I was making extreme efforts to try and recover my account. And trying so many, just that was all I did for days. I even canceled some karaoke shows over it because I was so mentally distraught over the situation that I couldn't even function enough to do my shows. I couldn't function. I was dangerously close to inpatient mental health care over the whole scenario. And I ended up I kind of went through the 5 stages of grief while I was in Colorado, and a day and a half of like really good juicing and making money at that, that certainly helped put me in a better headspace. And then after I got a little bit of sleep in my hotel room, and then turned in the keys to my hotel room, and I spent like the rest of the day until the, some point in the evening, just going to places where I used to be my stomping grounds in Denver, and it's kind of a bittersweet experience because most of those places just weren't what they were, and I didn't run into any of my old crowd, and why would I, right? That was decades ago. Most of the landmarks are long gone. Denver's a different place. Talking 30 years ago. Longer now. It's about 30 years ago then. And it sucks. It sucks, you can't go back. I mean, not like you not be younger, but even the places that you enjoyed when you're younger, they're when you get older, they're not the same. They're largely not the same places. So it's kind of a bittersweet thing, but I had a good time, and mostly alone. I had a couple people I had interesting conversations with, but didn't really connect with anybody, and ended up coming home. And on the drive back, I just sort of resigned the loss of that Google account, and at least I did still have some limited access, to my Gmail and to my what do you call it? My Google Drive via my smartphone. It was an iPhone at the time. That was my first iPhone, and that was a good thing. And so, I mean, I had talked to my friend in Silicon Valley about that, and he's like, well, it's like, even if you never regain full control of that account, at least with you not being locked out of that, it's going to be slow and tedious and annoying, but you can download all those things to your phone, and then use a data cable or your Bluetooth to move those to a PC and create another Google account and start migrating your stuff over to another Gmail in the meantime. And dude, that really sucks. You had a lot of good stuff going on with your YouTube, and it's like, yeah, it did. It sucks. But I kind of I was dealing with it and kind of resigned to it, and had a lot of time to think about it on the drive back to Arizona. And I forget how many months later it was. It was a while longer. I just given up ever getting proper access to that account again. And then my iPhone got stolen. And of course I hadn't accomplished all the things, got all that stuff moved. So it's kind of took it for granted I'd be able to do that. And then my iPhone got stolen, and I was pretty fucked on that. And I bought a new iPhone, a refurbished model from Cricket. And as I went to set it up, it just kind of walked me through the prompts. It didn't even ask for a password. It just, asked for my user ID, so I put it in, and then it or my, Gmail address, whatever, and then it just, wants to send a confirmation to your phone, text message to your phone. Okay, and it did, and it sent it to my new phone, and then bam, I was in, and it gave me a prompt to reset my password. I'm like, really? It was that easy? Because not that long ago, I couldn't even correct this situation driving to your fucking headquarters. And, wow. I feel like there's a lawsuit against Google in there somewhere, but there's probably something in the EULA that protects them from... It's kind of crazy how much power Google has in everybody's lives, and how little accountability or need to provide accessibility they have that other forms of businesses are bound by. Like, I feel like this is kind of an ADA situation. Maybe I'm reaching on that, but I feel like it is. But anyway, that happened. This is totally not what I was planning on vlogging about, but I'm glad I got that story recorded. Lock, car. Anyway, I'm off to see a friend I haven't seen in quite some time ago that hosts a karaoke show over here in Tempe, so hopefully that'll be fun. And thanks for watching. I forget what I was initially talking about, but anyway, it's been almost 30 minutes. It's time to end this.